Joining me now to discuss this further, our former ambassador to Iran and UAE, Casey Singh, and former Israeli national spokesperson, Eylon Levy. Mr. Levy, let me begin by asking you, there is a lot of anger among leaders of the Arab League. They've gone on to say, and this is the Secretary General of the Arab League, that this silence to the act of thuggery by a rogue state is a crime itself, and enough of this. You've also got the Qatari Emir who's gone on to say that the Israeli strike and aggression is blatant, treacherous and cowardly. Turkey's leaders have gone on to say that this greedy, bloodthirsty mentality of Israel must end. So how do you address this anger, and will Israel go on to strike Hamas targets at other countries, in the Arab world?
Indeed, Qatar has been able to buy a great deal of regional influence thanks to its incredible gas wealth. But that doesn't change the fact that Qatar is a state sponsor of terror. Qatar backs Hamas, Qatar funds Hamas, and Qatar shelters Hamas leaders on its soil, just like Pakistan sheltered bin Laden on its soil and other leaders of anti-Indian terrorist groups. And just like Pakistan, Qatar is playing a double game. It claims to be hosting talks, to be a mediator, while Qatar, in fact, condemned Israel on October 7th and has been telling Hamas to hold on to the hostages to get a ransom that will allow it to stay in power. And Israel has made clear there will be no impunity anywhere for the masterminds of the October 7th massacre. We will not allow any country to give safe haven to terrorist masterminds plotting attacks on our civilians. I dare say, just like India's own doctrine of surgical strikes against terrorist groups who are being given shelter in Pakistan, there must be no safe haven for terrorists anywhere.
Right. Let me get in Ambassador Casey Singh. Ambassador Casey Singh, does this complicate attempts to end the war, arrive at a ceasefire? Qatar clearly is very angry, and so are the other members of the Arab League. How do you expect things to move on from here? And what role do you think Marco Rubio had to play when he arrived in Israel with a message from President Trump?
Well, quite clearly, they still continue to give a very long rope to Israel. Probably what he told them is, you better hurry up and do quickly whatever you are doing, because the attack in Qatar has brought almost all the Islamic and Arab countries together. That's what's happening in Doha. So it's not just the Arab countries, 22 Arab League countries, and the 57 members of the OIC, Islamic Organization of Islamic Conference. They will be meeting there. And there are proposals like from Egypt. They have said that we should form a protective group like NATO. So it's brought countries together, all the Gulf countries, even Emirates, which had signed the Abraham Accord with Israel and normalized relations, has been forced to shift into a position closer to that of Qatar. The president of UAE flew down all the way, and I'm sure he'll be there again for today's summit. So essentially what has happened is Iran, the Gulf countries, Turkey, Egypt, they are converging on this. So I think this is where probably Prime Minister Netanyahu overreached. He's gone a step too far. And there is general sympathy for Qatar because they said they were mediating and mediation was going on. And you can't have an attack in the middle of mediation. And on the very site where the group that the Qataris were talking to. So overall, I think other than US, but even remember, even Americans for the first time supported a UN General Assembly resolution condemning Israeli action. So far, they've never done that. They essentially fight to protect Israel. They stop Security Council resolutions, use their veto. But for the first time, they backed a resolution. They did not oppose it in the General Assembly. So I think this has reached a point where Israel cannot continue doing what they're doing. And there has to be a path which has to be found. But at the same time, Prime Minister Netanyahu, he obviously has support amongst the right wing in America. And he's flattering President Trump. He said he's the most supportive US president that Israel has ever seen. And that keeps up the support now. Where does it end? I think President Trump doesn't want to lose his friends in the Gulf, and he would not want this new grouping to develop between, because Israel has threatened Turkey too. Now, that'll be a different kind of combat because that's a NATO country. It's got modern weapons. It's got an army.
Right.
It's not a case of taking on Iran, which had antiquated aeroplanes and so on and so forth. So if you get a NATO kind of thing, which is difficult, between Egypt, Arab countries, Gulf countries, and if Iranians don't oppose it, and at the same time the Turks are on board, I think that's not a very good thing for Israel. It's created a convergence amongst powerful countries.
All right. Eylon Levy, what I'd like to ask you is this. Doesn't this strike complicate Qatar's mediation efforts? And number two, today, the members of the Arab League are almost calling out and calling for a NATO-style mechanism or a league of Arab nations to defend themselves against Israel. How would you respond to that? Do you feel that possibly this time Israel may have gone too far?
Well, unfortunately, the negotiations taking place in Qatar were a sham. It's been over 700 days, and Hamas, which is Qatar's client, has shown no interest in freeing the hostages and laying down its arms, which is the only way that this war can end. They were dragging on the talks while the hostages are starving and being tortured in the dungeons under Gaza. What Israel hoped was that the elimination of Hamas's leaders in Qatar would remove the main obstacle to a ceasefire. Israel is saying it might be possible to reach a deal with the hostages' captors on the ground to free them, but the political leadership in Qatar, living in luxury hotels while this war is raging, are stopping a ceasefire. They were dragging on talks while starving those hostages and continuing this brutal war. So no, Israel wants to end this war. It wants to end this war with all the hostages home and Hamas removed from power. And the Hamas leaders who are being sheltered by the Qatari regime, which is behind its PR an Islamist dictatorship, let's remember, is an obstacle to ending this war that Hamas began on October 7th, 2023.
Right. Ambassador Casey Singh, how do you see this in light of what's happening in the Arab world? Is this an attempt by US and Israel together? Do you think both countries are on the same page as far as carrying out this attack on Hamas sites in Qatar is concerned? And, you know, you've got the Israeli government officials saying that they will possibly strike other targets in the Arab world.
I think it's a mistake. They shouldn't be saying that. This is just a bluff. If they do that, they will really accelerate the convergence taking place between the Islamic countries. And even Israel cannot take on. Pakistan comes in. Pakistan has said they're there and they have nuclear weapons. The only thing Israel has, which all these countries don't have, are nuclear weapons. And if Pakistan is a part of it, and from India's point of view, that's not a good development. Because it opens new doors for Pakistan in the Gulf, in West Asia, and gives them a very important role. And to that extent, India gets marginalized in that. So it's not good for us. So Israel, I don't know what we are telling Israelis privately, but I think enough time has passed. And what Israel wants is to eliminate completely the existence of Hamas or existence of people in Gaza and push them out. That's what they've been saying from day one. And they're pushing into the West Bank, which is against all UN resolutions. And they're cutting off the northern from the southern part so that you can never have a Palestinian state. And that again goes against UN resolutions. Now, they're very lucky that you got President Trump, but even Trump has been embarrassed because I don't think he expected that this kind of an attack will take place on Qatar because he went along with Israel on the attack on Iran, in fact, joined Israel in attacking Iran and the nuclear facilities there. But this may be now going too far. I don't know whether America understands it, but I think this is a time where they have to pull Israel back and say negotiations. How do you end a revolutionary movement? You can kill the leadership. They've killed all the leadership till now. They killed the top leader in Tehran. They've killed other leaders all over the place. There will be new leaders. Because if you keep killing people, then the younger people join a movement. You cannot kill an idea. You can kill leadership. But you cannot take away the freedom of the people, occupy that area, and say somebody else should have them, and push people out of occupied West Bank.
Okay.
And also go into the most religious place in Jerusalem, Al-Aqsa Mosque, etc. You can't do that. And there, Marco Rubio was there right to the wall.
Yeah.
And somebody said in America today, the Pope has said, Pope also commented on this about Musk, that you can't have this kind of a position which the rich in America are taking is neither in line with Christian faith, nor is it a very moral thing to do. So I think this may be the farthest that Israel can go before there is a reaction.
All right. Final comments from Eylon Levy. How do you sum up Israel's next reaction?
Well, Israel wants this war to end. Israel wants the war to end with Hamas removed from power and the hostages home. The first preference is a negotiated solution, but if Hamas does not want to negotiate its surrender and the release of the hostages, it leaves Israel with only a military option. Israel is not going to end this war with Hamas still in power in Gaza, or Hamas will start the next war and the Middle East will be trapped in an endless cycle of war. Secretary Rubio is in town today and he said the people of Gaza deserve a better future, but that future can only begin once Hamas is removed from power and those poor hostages are released. Hamas is holding up the whole region from moving on to a future of peace. And the more international pressure we get on the Hamas regime and its state sponsors, and that includes the Islamist dictatorship of Qatar, the sooner we can put this horrible war behind us and move towards a future of peace and reconciliation.
Okay, we've run out of time, but thank you very much, Eylon Levy and Ambassador Casey Singh, for joining us for those very important views on that developing story in the Middle East.